My stepdaughter told my fiancé I was cheating to get the wedding cancelled. It was a Saturday afternoon, 2 weeks before the wedding, when I noticed something was off. We had just come back from the florist, finalizing the centerpieces, and my fiancé Mark was quiet in a way that wasn't like him. He's not a talkative guy to begin with, but this was different. He kept glancing at his phone, then at me, like he was holding something back. When we got home, he said he had a headache and went upstairs. That alone wasn't strange, but he didn't even ask if I wanted to watch a movie later, which we always did on weekends. I let it go for a bit, figuring maybe he was just tired. I made some tea, scrolled through Pinterest, trying to choose between table runners, and then went up to check on him. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone. When I walked in, he clicked the screen off fast. Too fast. I asked if he was okay, and he nodded, barely looking at me. Then he said, "Can we talk?" My stomach flipped. I didn't say anything, just sat down next to him. He kept his eyes on the floor. Chloe told me something. I'm not sure what to do with it. Chloe is his daughter. She's 16, and she's been living with us part-time since her mom moved to New Jersey. Our relationship hasn't been perfect, but I've always tried. She's polite most of the time, but distant. She doesn't warm up to people easily, and I've respected that. I asked what Chloe said. Mark took a while to answer. He finally said, "She told me she saw messages on your phone. From some guy named Sean. She said it looked like you were meeting up with him." I laughed a little out of pure shock. "What? No. What messages? That's not true." But Mark didn't laugh. "She says you left your phone on the kitchen counter one night when I was working late, and she saw the text come in." I tried to think back. I do leave my phone around the house sometimes, but I don't get texts from any guy named Sean. I told him that. He nodded slowly, but didn't look convinced. "She said you deleted the conversation afterward, that you were smiling when you read the messages." My mouth went dry. "So, you believe her?" He didn't answer. That silence told me everything. I stood up, my heart racing. "Mark, there is no Sean. I haven't cheated on you. I don't even know where this is coming from." She said she saw the name, and she swears it was romantic, that it was about meeting up and keeping it secret. I felt a flush of panic, but also anger. "Then show me the messages. If she saw something, let's see it." He shook his head. "She didn't take screenshots, she just told me." "Then how can you even—" I had to stop myself. I didn't want to start shouting. "Do you trust me?" He looked up at me then, and that moment felt like the edge of a cliff. I saw the hesitation in his face, not confusion, hesitation. Like he didn't want to answer. "That's not a no," I said quietly. Mark exhaled hard, rubbing his face. "I don't know what to think right now." I left the room. I couldn't sit there while he tried to decide whether or not I was lying. I went downstairs, heart pounding, and pulled my phone out to scroll through my texts, like I needed to prove to myself I hadn't lost my mind. There was no Sean. There was no suspicious conversation. I was shaking when I realized what this might actually be. Chloe had never liked the idea of the wedding. She never said it outright, but every time we talked about plans, she'd zone out. Whenever someone brought up how I'd be her stepmom, she went stiff. I'd tried to connect with her, slowly, respectfully, but she was guarded, polite, cold, and hard to reach. Now I wondered if this wasn't just her being upset about the wedding. I went back upstairs and knocked on Mark's door. He didn't answer, so I pushed it open. He was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. "She made it up," I said. "I don't know why, but she did. And if you believe her more than me, we've got a bigger problem than whatever she said." He looked over, eyes tired. "I need to talk to her." "Fine. Do it now. Let's clear this up." But he didn't move. "I will," he said. "Just not right now." I left the room again. I was too angry to keep talking. That night, he slept in the guest room. The next morning, he went out early. I didn't ask where. When I checked Chloe's room, it was empty. Her bed hadn't been slept in. I stood in the hallway, frozen. Something was happening here, and I didn't know what it was yet. But I knew it wasn't over. I didn't hear from Mark all morning. He didn't text, didn't call, and I didn't know if he was with Chloe or avoiding me. Around noon, I sent him a message that just said, "Can we talk later?" I watched the screen for a while after hitting send, waiting for the typing dots to appear. They didn't. I spent the rest of the day in a weird limbo, trying not to spiral. I cleaned the kitchen, watered the plants, changed the sheets on our bed, anything that made the house feel normal, like we weren't hanging on by a thread. Every time I walked past the fridge and saw our save-the-date magnet, I felt a rush of panic. I had no idea what he was thinking, or worse, who he was talking to. It was nearly 5 p.m. when I heard the garage door. I stayed in the living room, not wanting to come off too eager. Mark came in quietly, without Chloe. He didn't take off his jacket. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "She's at her mom's," he said. "She doesn't want to come back right now." That answer said more than I think he realized. Chloe only went to her mom's when she felt backed into a corner. Mark had told me that once, early on. I nodded. "Did you ask her about the texts?" "I did." Looked down. "She says she's sure of what she saw. She didn't back down from it." I stared at him. "So you still think I cheated?" "I didn't say that." "You're not saying anything, Mark. That's the problem." He sat on the edge of the armrest across from me and rubbed his forehead. I asked her why she didn't come to me right away. She said she didn't want to hurt me, but she couldn't stay quiet about it. I almost laughed. "Do you hear yourself? You believe that? That she saw me cheating and just sat on it out of kindness?" He didn't answer, and I could feel my anger starting to rise. Not yelling anger, just cold disbelief. I tried a different angle. "Did she say anything else? What the messages actually said?" He nodded slowly. "She said it was something like, I can't wait to see you again. And the guy, Sean, said, last night was amazing. Same time tomorrow? I stared at him. That's a cliche. That sounds made up. That doesn't even sound like how I talk. She said it wasn't just one message. Mark, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You've seen my phone. You know my passcode. You know my routines. You know where I am most of the time. Have I ever once given you a reason not to trust me? He looked like he wanted to say yes, and that was the part that stung the most. It's not just the messages, he said quietly. It's how you and Chloe are around each other. That hit differently. I leaned back and folded my arms. What do you mean? You act like you're walking on eggshells around her. Like you're afraid of her. That's because she treats me like I'm a problem she has to tolerate. Every time I try to talk to her, she shuts down. I thought giving her space was the respectful thing to do. He nodded, slowly, like he was finally seeing it from my side, but not fully committing. She said you smile at your phone when I'm not around. That you've been secretive. I smile at dumb videos. I watch animal rescues and send them to you. You've seen me do it. He didn't respond. I stood up. Okay, let's go through my phone, right now. He looked up. What? You want to find this guy named Sean? Let's look. I unlocked my phone and handed it to him. He hesitated, then took it. I stood there while he scrolled through my texts, my email, even my social media messages. He was quiet the whole time. After a few minutes, he handed it back. Nothing's there. Nope, I said, because there never was. He nodded once but didn't apologize. Didn't say I believe you now. He just sat there. So, what happens now? I asked. He shook his head, eyes unfocused. I don't know. I don't know why she'd lie about something like this. Maybe she doesn't want us to get married. She wouldn't do this just because she doesn't like you. She wouldn't? I said, not trying to sound smug but a little bitter. Because I think she would. Mark looked up. She's a kid. She's 16, Mark. She's not a child. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to manipulate situations when she wants to. He looked at me. Really looked at me then, and I could tell this was the first time he was letting himself consider that possibility. We didn't talk much after that. He made dinner quietly, and we ate in front of the TV, not really watching anything. When we went to bed, he kissed me goodnight, but it felt rehearsed, like a motion he was supposed to go through. I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, knowing that even if he started to believe me, something between us had already shifted. The damage wasn't about the fake messages anymore. It was about the fact that when Chloe pointed a finger, Mark didn't look for the truth. He looked at me. 3 days later, I found out Chloe had blocked me on every platform. I didn't realize it at first. I'd sent her a text. Nothing dramatic, just, can we talk sometime soon? And when I didn't get a reply, I checked our message history. The bubbles had gone green. I opened Instagram and searched her name. Gone. I tried Snapchat. Same thing. It was like I didn't exist. When I told Mark, he rubbed the back of his neck like it physically hurt to deal with. She's upset, he said, like that was an explanation. I said, she accused me of cheating, and when you started to doubt it, she shut down and cut me off. How is that not suspicious to you? He didn't argue. He just looked exhausted. I wasn't going to let it drop. I asked him if he really thought Chloe had seen something real, or if he could admit, even a little, that maybe she'd lied. I don't know, he said. I've never seen her lie like this. That wasn't good enough. So I started thinking about why. Why would she go this far? It wasn't like we fought. We weren't close, but I'd never punished her or screamed or tried to take her father away. I wasn't her stepmom yet. I hadn't tried to be her mom. I thought I'd been patient. Then I remembered something I'd overheard 2 months earlier. Mark and Chloe were in the kitchen. I was in the hallway. She'd asked him what would happen to her room if we had a baby. Mark had said something like, we'd figure it out, and laughed, not unkindly. She hadn't laughed back. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it felt sharper in hindsight. That night, I took out my laptop and went through our shared calendar. I pulled up the dates when Mark had worked late, when Chloe was home and I wasn't, when things could have happened if her story had any truth to it. None of it lined up. Her timeline didn't make sense, and I was starting to think it wasn't meant to. Then something else happened. I got a message from my friend Natalie. She used to babysit Chloe years ago, and we'd stayed close. It just said, hey, random, but has Chloe said anything weird about you lately? I called her immediately. Natalie sounded hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she should even be telling me. She said Chloe had come into the cafe where she worked part-time a few days ago. She was with a friend, and they were sitting by the window talking kind of loud. Natalie hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but Chloe had said my name. She said you were probably going to break her dad's heart before the wedding, Natalie told me. That she saw it coming, and she laughed. I sat there, holding my phone like it might burn my hand. Did she say anything about cheating? I asked. She didn't say it directly, but she said stuff like, people show you who they really are if you pay attention, and he's too blinded to see it. Did she sound upset? No, Natalie said. That's what bothered me. She sounded smug, like she'd won something. I didn't even know what to say. I thanked her and hung up, then went straight to Mark. He was in the kitchen pouring cereal into a bowl. I told him everything. Natalie, the conversation at the cafe, the way Chloe talked about me like this was a plan, not a reaction. Mark didn't say anything right away. He put the cereal down and just stood there looking at the counter. I asked, does that sound like someone who's hurt and confused? Or does it sound like someone who's trying to take something away from you? He finally said, she's just a kid. Maybe she doesn't know how to handle her feelings. She blocked me. She made up a story. She's walking around talking about how you're too blind to see who I am. And you still think this is just about feelings? He looked tired again, not angry, just worn out. She's been through a lot, he said, and I could tell he wasn't talking about now. He was going back to her mom's divorce, to the move, to every time he had to split holidays. I said, and I've been nothing but careful with her. I've backed off when she needed space. I never tried to replace anyone. And this is what I get? Mark sat down at the table, rubbing his temples. I'm not saying she's right, but if she really made this up on purpose, I don't know what to do with that. I sat across from him. You have to talk to her, not to coddle her, to ask her why she's doing this, and you need to hear the answer. He didn't respond, but he didn't disagree. The next day he told me he'd scheduled a lunch with Chloe, alone, at a diner near her mom's house. When he left, I felt my heart hammering in my chest. This was it. Either she'd double down and twist the knife, or the truth was finally going to crack through. I didn't know which outcome I wanted more, relief or proof. He was gone for 2 hours. When he came back, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to scroll on my phone but barely breathing. I looked at him and asked, well? He didn't answer right away. He just walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank half of it in silence. Then he turned to me and said, she admitted she didn't see anything. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there, staring at Mark like the words didn't make sense. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I'd started to think he might never say them. She admitted it? I finally asked. My voice cracked a little. Mark nodded. Yeah. She said she made it up. He didn't sound angry. He sounded flat, like a tire that had been slowly leaking air for weeks and had finally given up. I stood up, hands clenched at my sides. What else did she say? He leaned on the kitchen counter. She said she thought I was making a mistake, that you weren't right for our family. Her exact words were, she doesn't belong here. I swallowed hard. And making you think I was cheating. That was what, a strategy? She said it was supposed to be a warning, that if I believed you over her, then I wasn't listening. She didn't expect it to go this far, but once I asked her, she didn't want to walk it back. I was shaking now. So she just lied, flat out, lied to your face, lied about me, and you believed it. He closed his eyes. I know. You didn't even ask for proof, Mark. He looked up. I know. I walked past him and into the hallway. I didn't know where I was going, maybe just to move. I felt like I had this buzzing inside me, like I needed to pace or scream or something. I heard him behind me, slow steps. I should have known better. I should have talked to you first, not jumped to conclusions. I turned around. But you didn't. That's the problem. You've lived with me for 2 years. You've seen who I am every single day. She drops one accusation, and suddenly, I'm some stranger you can't trust. Mark didn't try to argue. I messed up. I did. I let her get into my head. I wasn't thinking straight. No, you were thinking like a dad who doesn't want to believe his kid could do something ugly. He flinched. I didn't take it back. She doesn't want us to get married, I said. She wants it to just be you and her. You know that, right? He nodded. Yeah, I see that now. What are you going to do about it? That question hung there for too long. He finally said, I don't know yet. I stared at him. The wedding is in 10 days. He didn't move. I know. That night he slept in the guest room again. It was his idea. Just to give you space, he said. I didn't argue. I didn't want him near me. Not until I knew what he was really going to do. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of his car leaving the driveway. It was 7:12 a.m. He didn't text me. Didn't leave a note. He didn't come back until after dinner. When he walked in, he looked even more drained than before. He dropped his keys in the bowl by the door and stood there, like he didn't know what to say. I talked to her again, he said finally. And? She doesn't regret it. That knocked the air out of me. What? She says she still thinks the wedding shouldn't happen. That she did what she thought was right, and she'd do it again if it meant stopping me from making a mistake. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. A 16-year-old decided your relationship needed to end, so she manufactured a story, tried to blow up our engagement, and now she's standing by it? She doesn't think it was wrong, Mark said. She thinks I'm making a choice that ruins her life. By marrying me, he nodded. Yeah. There was a long silence. I finally asked, did you tell her that wasn't her call to make? I did. And? She cried. She told me she wouldn't come to the wedding. I blinked. So she's trying to hold it hostage now. Emotional ransom. She said if I marry you, she won't come home for the summer. I sat down on the arm of the couch. Mark, this isn't just a tantrum. This is manipulation. I know. You keep saying that, but what are you actually going to do? He looked at me, and something in his face cracked a little. I told her I'm still going to marry you. It should have felt like relief, but it didn't. Not fully. I just asked. And she said? She said she won't be part of it. She said I'm choosing you over her. I didn't say anything. He walked over slowly and sat on the other arm of the couch. We sat like that, almost touching, but not, like a broken bridge between us. I want to fix this, he said. I want to make it right. I looked at him. You can't fix what she did. You can only decide how much of it you're going to excuse. He didn't speak. She doesn't have to like me, I said. But this, lying, framing me, this wasn't a cry for help. This was a power move. I know, he whispered. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I believed that he did, but I still didn't know if that was going to be enough. 2 days after Mark told me Chloe had admitted the truth, the wedding planner called to confirm our final walkthrough at the venue. I stood in the hallway with the phone to my ear, staring at the front door, not knowing what to say. I told her I'd get back to her. When I hung up, Mark was in the kitchen, pretending to read emails on his laptop. I walked in and just said it. She admitted she lied. Are we still getting married? He looked up slowly. Yes, I still want to marry you. Even if she doesn't show up. I hope she does. But I'm not waiting for her to approve it anymore. It was the first time he said something definitive since the whole thing started. Still, I didn't respond right away. I was thinking about how quickly things had gone from solid to shaky, how easily he'd believed the worst about me. I kept wondering what would have happened if Chloe hadn't slipped up, if Natalie hadn't overheard that conversation. Would I still be sitting here, accused of something that never happened, while Mark slowly pulled away? The next day, I had a fitting for my dress. I thought about canceling it, but I went. I didn't bring anyone with me. I stood there in front of the mirror while the seamstress clipped the hem, and I didn't feel beautiful. I felt tired. When I got home, Mark was in the garage going through some boxes, like he couldn't sit still either. He came in and asked if I wanted to order food. I said sure. We didn't talk about Chloe. It was the first time in a week that her name didn't come up. The calm didn't last long. That night, Mark got a text from Chloe's mom, Mia. He read it while we were brushing our teeth. His face went pale. She says Chloe told her I was marrying someone controlling, that you're trying to push her out of my life. I turned to him, toothbrush still in my mouth. What? He handed me the phone. The message was short. Chloe's very upset. She says you're not thinking clearly. Maybe postpone the wedding? She's not okay with how this is happening. I think you should talk to someone before going through with it. I spit into the sink and wiped my mouth. Are you serious? Now she's going through her mom? Mark didn't say anything. I stared at him. Did you tell her mom what she did? That she lied? No, not yet. Why not? He looked genuinely torn. Because I don't want to make it worse for her. I shook my head. So she gets to lie, smear my name, and you're still protecting her. I'm not protecting her. I'm trying not to destroy the relationship completely. She already did that, Mark. He sat on the edge of the bathtub, head in his hands. You're not wrong. She's still my daughter, and she's spiraling. No, I said. She's not spiraling. She's doubling down. I didn't say it out loud, but I could see what was happening now with perfect clarity. Chloe hadn't expected to be caught. She had hoped the lie would be enough to make Mark end things on his own. But when it didn't work, she started pressing in every direction. Guilt, manipulation, even involving her mom. And the part that scared me was how calculated it all felt. Not impulsive, not emotional, strategic. The next day, I told Mark I wanted to talk to Chloe myself. He said, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't care, I said. This is my life too. I have a right to confront the person who tried to burn it down. He looked uncomfortable. She won't want to see you. She doesn't have to want it. I'm not going to scream at her. I'm going to tell her exactly what she did to me and give her a chance to own. Get. He didn't answer, so I called her. She didn't pick up, of course. I left a voicemail. Just my voice, calm and flat. Hi, Chloe. I think we need to talk. One-on-one. You don't have to come to the house. We can meet somewhere neutral. I just think there are things we need to say without your dad in the room. She didn't respond. Later that night, Mark got a message from her. All it said was, I don't want to see her. If you make me, I'm done talking to you too. He read it out loud. His hands were shaking when he put his phone down. She's trying to control everything, I said. You realize that, right? She's drawing lines and forcing you to choose. I know. Then choose. He looked at me for a long time. I already did, he said. I'm marrying you. I believed him this time. But I also knew the fallout wasn't over. Chloe might have admitted the truth to him, but she hadn't taken it back publicly. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't owned it in any meaningful way. And now she was rewriting the story again. From false accusations to victimhood. From liar to daughter abandoned by a father who wouldn't listen. The problem was, people would believe her. Some already did. Her mom. Probably some of her friends. Maybe even Mark's family, who still hadn't called to confirm they were coming to the wedding, and the wedding was now 9 days away. The following morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach that didn't go away, even after coffee. Mark had already left for work. He left a note, just a post-it on the fridge that said, Love you, we're okay. But it didn't feel okay. It felt like a pause button had been hit somewhere deep in our lives, and neither of us knew what would start playing when it came off. I didn't go into work that day. I stayed home and opened my laptop to check the wedding RSVPs again. There were still gaps where there shouldn't have been. 2 of Mark's cousins hadn't replied. His older sister, who used to text me recipes, hadn't said a word since Chloe's accusation. I clicked through the list, staring at names I no longer felt certain about. Then I saw one name marked as declined that hadn't been yesterday. Caitlin, Mark's best friend from college. She was supposed to be a bridesmaid. I opened my texts and scrolled up to our last conversation, 4 days earlier. She'd asked if I was okay and said she hoped things were just a misunderstanding. I'd replied and said we were working through it. She never responded. I called her. It rang once, then voicemail. I didn't leave a message. When Mark got home, I asked if he'd talk to her. He frowned. Caitlin? Not since last week. Why? She backed out. He blinked. What? She said she couldn't come. He pulled out his phone and started typing. I watched his expression change as he read. She texted me, he muttered. What did she say? He showed me. Hey, I think I need to sit this one out. Just too much going on, and I don't want to make things messier. Hope you understand. She thinks I actually did it, I said. Mark put the phone down. She doesn't know what to believe. That's the problem, I said, because Chloe never took it back publicly. She admitted it to you in private, but the rest of the world still thinks I'm the one who blew up this wedding. He nodded, slow and heavy. I'll talk to Caitlin. Mark, it's not about Caitlin. It's about all of them. Everyone who got a whisper of this lie and never heard the truth. I don't know if he truly understood the damage until that moment, until he saw how it had spread. That night, we went out to dinner just to get out of the house. Some quiet little place across town where no one knew us. It was mostly empty. We sat by the window. I wore a loose cardigan and no makeup. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. Halfway through the meal, he said, I keep thinking about what happens after the wedding, not the honeymoon. After that. Real life. I put my fork down. Yeah? What if she never gets over it? She won't, I said. Not in the way you want. You keep waiting for her to apologize, to regret it. She won't. Because this wasn't a mistake, it was a decision. He looked away. I know. You have to live with that now, not her potential, her reality. He didn't argue. We didn't talk much the rest of the meal. When we got home, I went upstairs to shower. When I came back down, Mark was on the phone. He was pacing the living room, one hand on his forehead. I could tell right away he was talking to Chloe's mom again. No, Mia, he said, voice tight. You don't get to tell me I'm choosing the wrong woman, not after what she did. He paused, then added, I know she's hurt. She caused that hurt. She lied. She hasn't admitted it to anyone but me. And now people are backing out of our wedding because of it. I leaned against the wall and listened. No, I'm not canceling it. We're still getting married. I'm not letting a teenager rewrite my life because she's scared of it changing. Another pause. You're her mother. If you want to help her, get her to take some responsibility. Stop telling her it's okay to burn everything down just because she's uncomfortable. He hung up not long after. When he saw me, he looked more shaken than I expected. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For how long it took me to see this for what it was, for what it's still doing to you. I walked over and sat on the arm of the chair he was in. It's doing it to both of us. Later that night, I got a message. An Instagram DM from a mutual friend of Mark and Chloe's, someone I barely knew. It said, Hey, I don't want to stir things up, but Chloe's been telling people you pressured Mark into keeping the wedding on. Just thought you should know. That was the moment something snapped. This wasn't over. She was still lying, still rewriting, still whispering her version of the story to anyone who'd listen. And as long as she did that behind closed doors, there would never be a clean break from the damage she'd done. I showed Mark the message. He read it, then closed his eyes. I need to fix this, he said quietly. The next morning, he did something I wasn't expecting. He wrote a message to everyone in the bridal party, everyone on his side of the guest list, and told them the truth. The message Mark sent was short, careful, but clear. He told them there had been confusion, that a serious accusation had been made against me, and that it was later proven to be false. He didn't name Chloe directly, but he didn't hide what happened either. He said the issue had caused tension and misunderstandings, but that he and I were moving forward with the wedding. He asked that if anyone had questions they could talk to him directly, but he wasn't going to let rumors dictate his choices. Then he hit send. It went out to 23 people, friends, cousins, a few co-workers. Within an hour, the responses started trickling in. Some were neutral. Thanks for clearing that up, or glad you're okay. A few were warmer. We'll be there. Wouldn't miss it. But others never replied. A few left him on red. Caitlin didn't say anything at all. Mark didn't seem surprised. I think he already knew who'd stuck around because of convenience, and who actually stood by him. Still, I could see it in his face. Every name that didn't respond left a mark. Later that afternoon, he took a call in the garage. I stayed inside, folding the stack of RSVP cards we still hadn't mailed. When he came back in, he looked blank. That was Mia, he said. She said Chloe's refusing to come to the wedding. She told her mom that I embarrassed her. I didn't say anything. She thinks I betrayed her by telling the truth. She betrayed you first, I said quietly. Mark sat down on the stairs and rubbed his eyes. Mia wants to talk. She says we should all sit down, me, Chloe, you, her, and sort things out. She called it restoring trust. I laughed a little, but it wasn't funny. There is no trust left to restore. Mark looked up at me. Do you want to go to that? Do you? He didn't answer. I shook my head. She didn't just lie, Mark. She targeted me. She tried to humiliate me. And now she wants to spin the story like we did this to her. That's not confusion. That's control. He nodded slowly. I said no. To the meeting. I looked at him for a moment. Good. That night, my parents called. They'd stayed mostly out of it until now, trying to be supportive without stepping in. But when I told them everything that had happened, the lie, the fallout, the new messages, they were silent on the phone for a few seconds. Then my mom said, Are you sure you still want to go through with this? I could tell it wasn't judgment. It was concern. I'm sure, I said. Not because it's easy, because I believe in him. Even if I hate how long it took him to believe in me. That quieted her. Mark's parents, though? Different story. They'd originally RSVP'd, yes, but after everything went down, we hadn't heard from them. Mark called them that evening after the bulk message had gone out. He put it on speaker. His dad answered. Hey. Did you get my message? Mark asked. There was a pause. Yeah, we got it. And? His mom's voice came in next. Mark, it's a lot to take in. We just don't know what's true anymore. And Chloe's been through so much already. Mark's face tensed, but he didn't raise his voice. She lied. I'm sure she had her reasons, his dad said carefully. Mark leaned forward. Her reason was she didn't want me to marry someone she didn't choose. That's not a reason. That's control. His mom said. Maybe you should take more time. We're not postponing the wedding. Another pause. Then his dad said, well, then you'll understand if we sit this one out. Mark didn't argue. He just said, thanks for letting me know, and ended the call. He sat still for a moment, then said, they're not coming. I said, do you want them there? He thought about it. Not like this, no. The guest list was falling apart. Chloe was out. His parents were out. One of his groomsmen asked to be demoted to just a guest. Even some of the vendors were slow to reply now, like word had traveled and people didn't want to get involved in a mess. It was strange watching the wedding shrink. But in a way, it was clarifying too. The people who stayed, they really meant it. That weekend, Mark told me he wanted to write a letter to Chloe. Not to win her back, not to beg, just to say everything he needed to say without her interrupting. He sat down with a pen and notebook for almost 2 hours. Didn't type it. Didn't ask for advice. When he finished, he read it once, folded it, and mailed it to her mom's house. He didn't tell me exactly what was in it, just said, I told her I love her, but I'm not afraid of her anymore. 3 days later, we got a package in the mail. It was addressed to Mark, from Chloe. He opened it at the kitchen counter. Inside was a small box. On top a note. I won't be needing this anymore. Inside was the bracelet he gave her when she turned 15, a little silver band with her initials engraved on it. Mark didn't say anything. He just set it down, left the room, and didn't come back for an hour. The day before the wedding, I woke up at 6 a.m. and lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to remember how I used to feel about this day, before everything. I used to think it would be nervous excitement, happy tears, maybe a last-minute panic about my hair, or whether I remembered to pack deodorant in the emergency kit. I never imagined I'd be lying in bed wondering who still believed I was a liar. Mark was already up. I heard him moving around downstairs. I found him in the kitchen, standing in the same spot where I'd handed him my phone 2 weeks ago and told him to search it. He turned when he heard me. I didn't sleep much, he said. Me either. We didn't say anything for a while. He poured coffee for both of us, and we sat at the counter like we were roommates in a very quiet house. Then he asked, do you want to go ahead with it? It was a strange question, not because I didn't understand it, but because it felt like we were both waiting for the other to say it first. Yes, I said. But not because we have to, because I still want to. He nodded. Me too. We took the rest of the morning slow. I packed my overnight bag. He packed his. Our plan had always been to spend the night apart before the wedding. Tradition. He'd stay at a hotel with his best man, one of the few people still coming, and I'd stay with my sister at the venue's small cottage rental. I watched him roll up his tie and place it gently in the bag like it was breakable. As he zipped it up, he said, I keep thinking about what kind of father I am. I sat on the edge of the bed. You're trying? I didn't protect you from her. I didn't protect her from herself. I let her think she could set fire to my life and not get burned. You didn't know what she was capable of. I should have, he said. That's the part I can't stop turning over in my head. He stood there holding the strap of his bag, like he didn't know whether to pick it up or put it down. You're not a bad father, Mark, I said, but you let her believe she could win. He nodded. She didn't. But that didn't feel like the truth, not completely. Because even though we were still going through with the wedding, there were costs. Relationships that wouldn't recover. Trust that had been shaken. A future stepdaughter who had chosen to exile herself before the marriage even began. That afternoon, we drove to the venue in separate cars. We didn't talk much when we got there. He hugged me once in the parking lot, said he'd see me tomorrow. Then walked toward the side entrance without looking back. My sister met me at the little rental cottage on the property. She'd flown in from Arizona and she hugged me like she could feel everything I was holding back. You sure you're okay? She asked. I'm fine. You're lying. I laughed, just a little. I'm exhausted. She helped me steam my dress, go over the schedule, and remind me to eat. That night, we sat on the bed, watching some terrible cooking competition show, and she finally asked, what are you going to do about her? It took me a second to even realize she meant Chloe. I hadn't said her name out loud in days. I'm not going to do anything, I said. I don't need revenge, I just need distance. What about Mark? He's not going to chase her anymore, not the way she wants. You believe that? I thought about it. Yes, I do. That night, I got one last message from Chloe. It came in at 11:03 p.m. Hope you're happy. He's not the same anymore. No greeting, no explanation. Just that. Like she still believed she had the right to narrate the story. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't respond. I put my phone face down on the nightstand, climbed into bed, and pulled the blanket up to my chin. The next morning, I was going to marry the man who once doubted me. And I had to be okay with that, because I'd made my decision. Not the one I thought I'd be making when we first got engaged. This was something different. Something harder. Something heavier. But still mine. The morning of the wedding was overcast. The sky looked like it couldn't decide between rain and sun, and for a few hours, I thought we might have to move the ceremony indoors. But by the time I was stepping into my dress, the clouds had broken up and light was pouring through the windows like someone had flipped a switch. The cottage smelled like hairspray and lavender. My sister was putting on her earrings in the mirror, and I was sitting in the corner, holding my bouquet like it was keeping me anchored. I wasn't nervous, not in the way I expected. I didn't have cold feet or jitters or doubts. I just felt still. Like every emotion had already come and gone in the weeks before, and now there was only what was left. There were fewer guests than we planned for, a lot fewer. We had set up for 80. About 40 showed up. Some chairs were left empty, but the ones that were filled felt solid. People who had stayed, even after the worst version of the story had made its way through the grapevine. Some had emailed, called, or even messaged us directly to say they believed in us. Others just showed up without saying anything at all. That, in a way, meant more. Mark looked tired, but not broken. He stood at the end of the aisle with his best man, James, the one who hadn't flinched. I watched them from behind the trees as the music started, holding back until it was my turn to walk. I didn't cry during the ceremony. Mark did, a little, just at the start when I reached him. I remember his hand tightening around mine like he needed the contact to stay upright. I squeezed back. That moment, more than the vows or the ring exchange, felt like the real ceremony. Two people, shaken but standing, still showing up. Afterward, we ate under string lights. My sister gave a toast. So did James. No one mentioned Chloe, not once. It was like everyone understood without needing it explained. The cake tasted like nothing. I barely registered it. People came up and hugged us. A few said, "You made it." I didn't know whether they meant the wedding or the storm we'd walk through to get there. Either way, it was true. At some point late in the night, Mark and I stepped away from the reception to breathe. We stood at the edge of the property, looking out at the darkening sky and the long row of parked cars. He leaned against the railing and said, "I know this isn't what you imagined." "It's not what you imagined either." He nodded. "But I meant every word." "I know." We stayed like that for a while. I wasn't waiting for a perfect moment. I wasn't expecting peace to fall over us like in the movies. What we had now wasn't clean or simple or light. It was complicated, a little bruised, but still ours. We left the next morning for a short trip. Nothing big. Just a few nights in a quiet town where no one knew our names. We didn't post anything. No photos, no captions. We didn't owe anyone the proof that we'd survived. Back home, there was a small envelope in the mailbox when we got in. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. Just 2 lines. "You chose her. I won't forget that." No signature. But we didn't need one. Mark read it once and didn't say anything. He folded it, walked into the kitchen, and put it in the trash without a word. We never spoke about it again. Weeks passed, then months. The rumor faded. People moved on. The people who mattered stayed. The ones who didn't slowly disappeared, like they were never really ours to begin with. Mark didn't hear from Chloe again. She stopped replying to his messages. Her mother said she was fine but distant. I stopped asking. I had nothing left to give that situation. No more letters. No more explanations. No more space in my head. Sometimes I still think about the version of our life that could have existed without the lie. What the wedding might have looked like. What my relationship with Chloe could have become. But then I remind myself that I didn't lose something I had. I lost something I was never really given. I didn't get the picture-perfect step-family. I didn't get the full guest list. I didn't get the unshakable start. But I got the truth. And I got to walk into my marriage with my eyes wide open. That's not nothing.